Hi, I'm Blake Chapman. I'm a lawyer and practicing in the area of wills and estates, and I do house calls on your schedule. Today I'm going to be talking about real estate and your will. Real estate is often people's biggest asset after life insurance proceeds. And real estate is also an unusual asset because there's an emotional attachment to it. This is often the house where your kids grew up in, or in the case of cottages, this is where your family comes together every year. This is where your family is a family. But each circumstance is different. Now, without going into too much detail, I would say that usually I recommend that the house be sold. Because it is the biggest asset and cash is king, I usually recommend that it's sold, but each circumstance is different. The other question is, what happens on joint ownership? With joint ownership, with a right of survivorship, when one spouse passes away, it goes to the other automatically. Now, some people don't want this to happen. Also, some people want their kids to be added as joint owners on the property so that it passes directly to that child and avoiding probate tax. Now, this can get very messy very quickly. What happens to that child's principal residence exemption? Do they have to pay land transfer tax? Is this accounted for in the distribution of your estate? Is that child holding it in a trust, or are you actually gifting that interest to your child? Whatever you do when you're thinking about adding a joint owner to a house, please ask a lawyer. You can also create a trust for your house so that a house stays in the trust when you pass away, and your surviving spouse can live in the house for their lifetime. And then when they die, it goes to somebody else, like your kids, if you have children from a separate marriage, or even anybody else that you want to name. You can also do a house for cottages. These are called cottage trusts. This way you can ensure that the cottage property stays in the family, possibly for multiple generations. But it's important when doing this that you set it up properly. You devote funds to a separate maintenance and expenses fund so that every year there is money to pay for that, because that is often the biggest source of conflict: who's paying the upkeep costs of the cottage. But that way you can at least keep it in the family. And it's very important that if you ever leave real estate to one child in particular, when there's more than one, or whether siblings, that share gets accounted for in the overall distribution so that everything is fair. The last thing I'm sure you want is when you pass away for your family to be fighting, and the only people who ever come out on the plus side of that are lawyers. So please, when you're thinking about dealing with real estate in your will, make sure you think about it carefully and ask your lawyer for different options.